Good evening, and welcome to the second regular public meeting of the Halton District School Board. It is Wednesday, September the 22nd, 2021. As per all of our board meetings, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the hdsb.ca website. It is also available on our YouTube channel. Please note that tonight we are using our hybrid meeting model where some of us are in the boardroom and the rest of us are attending remotely. As per our bylaws and policies, trustees attending remotely have all the rights and privileges of a board member present in the boardroom. I will now take trustee roll call. Please answer as I call your name in alphabetical order by last name. Trustee Amos.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Bao.
Good evening.
Trustee Collard.
Hello, good evening.
Trustee Daniele.
Thank you, I am here.
Vice Chair Al Harrison.
Hello.
Trustee Garretts.
Hi, everyone.
Trustee Gray.
Good evening.
Trustee Oliver.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Reynolds.
Hello.
Trustee Rocha.
Hello, everyone.
Trustee Shuttleworth.
Hi there, everyone.
And Trustee Vigilankara.
Good evening.
Director Ennis, would you please note the staff that are present this evening?
Thank you and good evening. Through you, Chair, we have in the room with us Associate Director Bogue, and of course, we have many of our senior staff joining us remotely as well this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Trustee Shuttleworth, I will be honoring the land this evening. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern tradition from the many First Nation and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Attawandaron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather here today on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions: land, water, plants, animals, ancestors that walked before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their traditional territory with us.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest? Looking to the speakers list. Seeing none. Next, we are up to the agenda. Trustee Gray, would you like to move a motion to approve the agenda this evening?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Excellent. Trustee Oliver, would you like to second this motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is there any discussion at all on the agenda this evening? Looking to the speakers list. Seeing none. All those in favor, please use your blue Google form to vote. Goodness me. I had a small technical issue. Hold on a second. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We do not have any Inspire Awards this evening, but we do have a wonderful presentation. Item 221, multi-year plan artwork unveiling. So the Halton District School Board is excited and proud to unveil the student artwork interpretation of the Halton District School Board's 2020-2024 multi-year strategic plan. In March, the trustees unanimously supported a plan to invite Halton District School Board students to create an artistic interpretation to illustrate the principles of the multi-year plan. The trustees along with staff are committed to student voice and want to learn how students interpret the multi-year plan through artistic design. There were many students who submitted their work. It was a very hard choice. Minyi Liu, a grade 11 student at Abbey Park High School, submitted her piece, which has been chosen to hang here in the boardroom at the J.W. Singleton's Education Center in Burlington alongside the multi-year plan. And I'd like to invite up Trustee Oliver and Vice Chair Harrison to help unveil this captivating work. They were both on the committee choosing the work. Go right ahead anytime. Please come forward. So if you'd like to turn around, just because the camera is facing that way. So in her artist statement, Minyi explains that she chose the imagery of two different trees or vines wrapping around and supporting each other because she felt that the different ideas and aspects interconnecting with each other to create the plan was similar to the way vines intertwined. Student voice and engagement are integral to the success and implementation of the multi-year plan. Minyi Liu's captivating work embodies how the distinct aspects of the plan are intertwined and interrelated so that we can all learn, grow, and inspire together. So we are inviting Minyi, who is present here, to sign the artist statement, which will be framed and displayed right beside her artwork. Okay. I would like to ask Trustee Vidyalankara and Trustee Bao if they would like to also make a comment about the artwork or to Minyi.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Minyi. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. Casey and I were just texting each other about how wonderful it looks. I couldn't even imagine how you did that. And I just wanted to also thank the Board of Trustees for allowing students to take part in this and to get involved with the MYP. I know when I became a trustee last year, I had sort of heard of the MYP, but it definitely isn't something that all students are aware of. So I think having students engaged like this will definitely help spread awareness about the board's objectives and goals. So yeah, I'll keep it at that. But congratulations, Minyi. It's absolutely beautiful. You should be really proud of yourself.
Would Trustee Bao like to say anything? Or?
Yeah, everything that Vandy said, I thought the artwork was absolutely beautiful. Minnie is an incredibly talented artist, and I'm so glad she's in our board. And I was also one of her classmates, so I think it's so cool. VSS represent.
Excellent. Thank you so much again, Minnie, for gracing us with your talent. Is lovely, and I think we all think that it truly encompasses our multi-year plan well. Thank you. Okay, next, back to work. These celebrations are lovely to have. As per our agenda, we have no delegations this evening, and we are up to the consent agenda items. Trustee Reynolds, would you like to move a motion to deal with the consent agenda this evening?
Yes, I would. Thanks.
Thank you. And Trustee Garretts, would you like to second?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the consent agenda action items and receive the information items for September 22nd, 2021. I know that a number of these items are being pulled this evening. We will be reviewing the order paper this evening, and also, there were some items in the capital projects update. So we will start with the order paper. Director Ennis, did you want staff to go through the items?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Gebrents. Yes, I will lead the discussion this evening in the order paper. And so I have the honor of going through them for you this evening. So I'll start with motion M170184. This particular motion will be removed in mid-November. Motion M190103 will be back at board in late January. We're hoping to close on this later this year. Motion M190130 is a part of our long-term accommodation program, and we're going to leave that until late October. Motion M190160, we'll be seeking to remove this in December 2021. The next motion is motion M200099. There are two parts in here. The first part of that motion with regards to GART Web is in progress. And the second part with respect to Craig Kielberger has been completed. Motion M200101. The first part is shaded for the beginning of October 6th meeting. And the second part, our superintendent will speak to our efforts last year. And we have our facilities executive will speak to the CVRIS funding. Motion M200106 to be shaded for October the 6th. And our superintendent of human resources, Taha, he can speak to this if when we get to the end, if there are any questions on this. Next one that relates to staff, motion M200158 is shaded for October the 6th. Motion M210047, again shaded for October the 6th. The next few items are for the chair of the board. And the last one in the order paper is motion M210129 to be on the October the 6th board and shaded for late October. Those are all the item updates on the order paper.
Thank you very much for your efficiency going through that. Are there any questions at all with regard to the order paper from trustees? Okay, seeing none. The next is the capital projects update. I understand there's some information from Executive Officer Gaudette for this item.
That's correct, through you, Chair. I'm going to invite Executive Officer Ian Gaudette to speak to the capital update.
Thank you very much. This information report was prepared, and my apologies. The original report did have an error between Milton Southwest number 11 and Milton Southwest number 12. I appear to have gotten tongue-tied. It has been corrected in the online version, but to be clear, it is Milton number 11 that is continuing up with masonry block for the superstructure. And Milton number 12 is not under construction progress for the school. We are upfilling the site, but that is the only construction that's actively underway at Milton 12. As a good news update, subsequent to the writing of this report, we did receive a full permit for Milton Southwest number 11. So we're no longer only operating under the foundation and superstructure permit. We have a full building permit for that, and that's fantastic. And with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions with regards to this update.
Thank you. I'm looking to the speakers list. Trustee Collard, go right ahead.
Thank you to Executive Officer Gaudette. I'm curious as to the progress being made at Frontenac for the daycare. Has there been any progress since the writing of the report?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair to trustees, Frontenac experienced, I'll say, several delays in getting that one mobilized. I think we and our team fumbled a little bit in terms of getting our applications in, and then certainly we experienced some delays and some frustrations receiving our permits for Frontenac. We have made the site safe and secure for staff and students, and construction is underway.
Thank you. Do we know have an expected date for completion?
I can get that for you. I don't know that off the top of my head unless it's on the appendix. December of 2021.
Thank you.
Trustee Garretts.
Thank you. Through you to Executive Officer Gaudette. Just a quick question regarding Elsie McGill and Milton number 11. How are we doing in terms of timelines? Are we going to continue to meet them?
Yes, thank you for the question. Through the chair to trustees, Milton Southwest number 11 is proceeding quite well and quite effective. The third floor slabs were being placed just this week, which will enable the walls to continue up. So that's proceeding as planned. And we just toured Elsie McGill this week and don't anticipate any hiccups. So that one is also coming along nicely.
Trustee Gray. Thank you.
Thank you through the chair to Executive Officer Gaudette. Under the last part of your report, the CVRIS, you indicated 143 projects are underway. How many will make the deadline of December 31, and have we had any update on whether that deadline would be extended? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Through the chair to trustees, I believe we've completed approximately 54 projects to date of the 143. I will suggest that there are about 20 that are at risk in terms of the December 31st, 2021 timeline for completion. Some of those involve some outdoor learning spaces where we won't be able to gain access to the sites over the winter to complete the work that we need, as our contractors have been loaded up and are at full capacity. As well, we've been experiencing some delays with respect to window delivery in terms of the supply chain. So projects such as MMR that are expecting window upgrades, that's certainly going to be a challenge, and we don't anticipate receiving the windows until December. So that will provide some challenge to deliver that on time. And I'll say, for example, Pauline Johnson, which was a large project, we're just embarking upon that. So certainly got out of the gate a little later than we had hoped. So those are at risk, I'll say, for December 31st completion. I have heard, and I'll say the balance of the projects. So, 54 are complete, 20 at risk. The balance, I think we're in pretty good shape. I should say ITS has completed all of their 17 projects. The balance sit with the facilities department, and I think we'll wrap most of those up by December 31st. I have heard, although I have not seen officially in writing, that the deadline will be extended. So we do wait to hear if the December 31st, 2021 deadline will be extended.
May I have follow-up, please?
Yes.
To Executive Officer Gaudette, is there anything that the board or the Board of Trustees could do to support a request for an extension? I would imagine that pretty much all boards across the province would be faced with the same scenario as what you've just identified, and I'm wondering if there's something that can be done to request an extension, and have we done that, or what would you guide the board to do on this case?
Thank you for the question through the chair to trustees. I would suggest that I think that message has already been heard loud and clear. Because informally, I do believe we've heard some good news. However, there are a couple levels of government to modify the terms of this agreement or contract, and as such, I am hopeful and optimistic based on what we've heard. We have communicated through existing channels to indicate that December 31st of 2021 was going to be problematic, and I think they have heard us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Looking to the speakers list to see if there are any more questions at all. Okay, seeing none. The motion to approve the consent agenda action items and receive the information items is on the table. So all those in favor? And Vice Chair Harrison's is a yes verbally. And so that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We are now up to ratification action items. So this is approval of business transacted in private session. Vice Chair Harrison, do we have any business from private session that requires approval?
Yes, we do. There are two motions. Through you, Madam Chair, I'll read the first one. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the resolution from the Halton District School Board meeting in private session September 22nd, 2021, respecting property matters, report 21112, and I so move.
Thank you. Trustee Amos, would you like to second that motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much.
Is there any discussion? Looking to the speakers list. Seeing none, all those in favor? And we are just missing, oh, there we go. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Do you have any more motions, Vice Chair Harrison?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair, be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the resolution from the Halton District School Board meeting in private session September 22nd, 2021, respecting Property Matters. That's report 21113, and I so move.
Thank you. Trustee Rocha, would you like to second this motion?
I would. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Looking to the speakers list. Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We are now up to action items for September 22nd, 2021. As per the agenda, we have 2 action items this evening. The first, 421 SEAC membership, report 21110 from Superintendent Ruddock. Trustee Garretts, would you like to move this item?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Vice Chair Harrison, would you like to second? Okay, I'll put the motion on the floor. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the recommended appointment of Aaron Spruill as the Halton District School Board SEAC representative for voice. Superintendent Ruddock, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Through the chair to you all. Voice is an association on SEAC, and their representative vacated the position last spring, and it took them some time to find a replacement. But with your approval, we would like Aaron Spruill to join us effective the October SEAC meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any debate at all from trustees? Looking to the speakers list. Seeing none, all those in favor? Trustee, there we go. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item is 422, recognition of high holidays in the school calendar and community, report 21114, submitted by Trustee Shuttleworth and Trustee Rocha. Trustee Shuttleworth, would you like to move this?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. And Trustee Rocha, would you like to second?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will read the motion. Put it on the table. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board review any existing policy and or governance procedure related to school year calendar creation to ensure they align with the equity and inclusion commitment of our multi-year plan, which aims to champion supportive and inclusive practices. Is there any debate? Oh, sorry, not yet. Trustee Shuttleworth or Trustee Rocha, would you like to speak to this?
I think we both would.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Students and staff of the Halton District School Board represent a rich diversity of creeds, traditions, and belief. It is important that we create an environment within the HDSB community and beyond that allows for feelings of safety, value, and support to stretch to all of our members. As a board, we must demonstrate how we value and respect the voices from the diverse communities. Purposeful and immediate action is required on the part of the Halton District School Board. We need to consult with religious and spiritual leaders when developing the school year calendars and days of significance calendar.
Also, it is necessary to acknowledge the conflict that our students and staff face when significant school days, such as the first day of school, graduation, or exams, coincide with high holidays. They struggle with attending school or celebrating a holiday. It is important for a formal recognition to be shared with students and staff, a message that goes beyond a social media post. Although this recommendation only covers governance, policy, and procedure, we would also suggest that the director review any admin procedures so that they align with this recommendation to ensure that all policies, be it governance or administrative, are in line with our overarching commitments to our multi-year plan.
Okay, thank you. I'm opening this up to debate. Trustee Daniele, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the commitment to equity and the constant vigilance. But I have a few questions. I'm wondering why this is not for discussion this meeting and then over to the decision on the next meeting as per policy that what we've done in the past. But that's another thing. I had the opportunity to sit on the school calendar committee for the first time this year. And I know a great deal of discussion went in around the high holidays that you're referring to in September. And so I believe that's being done. This motion seems to indicate that this kind of consultation isn't being done. So I guess I would ask either Associate Director Bogue, who led the school calendar committee, or Superintendent Rob Etoff, if you could refresh our minds on what exactly we do so that we can identify where the gaps are, and possibly Dr. Joel Moore might be able to provide some clarity on that for me as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Daniele. Through the chair to Trustee Daniele and trustees. I can give you just a snapshot, a reminder of what happens at the calendar committee. We do look at the next year's school calendar with a view to really where does the school year start and end. And there are parameters outlined in Regulation 304 around the school year calendar in terms of start and end, the minimal number of instructional days, or the number of exam days, and so on. The committee really has the ability to determine PA day placements only, pretty much. Sometimes the school year can start and end one day earlier or later, but there's really not a lot of wiggle room between September 1st and June 30th. So we're really tasked around the PA days. We do have representation on the committee from our equity department and our human rights and equity advisor to keep an eye on where days of significance lie in the school year. So those are conversation points as we move throughout the school year, as we do have conversations around where to place the PA days. So there was quite a bit of conversation around that in this particular planning for this year's school calendar. I should mention as well that as we do those as we plan each year's calendar, we really try to be strategic around where the PA days are placed. The purpose of our PA days, these are work days for our staff, and we have some mandated learning that comes to us from the Ministry of Education, and we have some learning that we direct through our own school operations in terms of moving our staff forward in terms of our operational plan each year. So it's really important that the days are placed strategically, and that really is the priority for our committee. While we do look at days of significance and other factors, it's really important that we place those days and space them out so that we have effective learning and strategic around when that happens in terms of the timing, and so that learning is enduring for our staff, and so that is a consideration as well. So I think, Trustee Daniele, I hope I've captured the essence of your question to give a bit of a flavor of the conversation that did occur at the calendar committee.
Do you have a follow-up?
Thank you. May I have a follow-up?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, and my follow-up would be to Trustee Shuttleworth and Moshe. Can you help me understand clarity on what's missing there? I'm suspecting it's going to be specific consultation with specific groups beyond the equity department and our human rights advisory committee. And if so, how will you make sure that nobody gets missed in that? Because that would be one of my bigger concerns.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Trustee Daniele. It's not even only about the placement of the PA days that we're looking at. It's also just about the recognition when something coincides with another day of significance. We just feel it's important to recognize those difficult choices that some of our families are going to be in when there is a day of significance that might coincide between a school day, such as the first day of school, and a day where traditions are celebrated at home. I don't necessarily think we're asking for changes to the dates, but we're asking for a recognition so that our families can see that we value those or honor those decisions that they're going to have to make. So when you're looking at what groups, I do think Trustee Rocha and I did talk about this a little bit, in that it is difficult because there are so many different religions and creeds within our board. However, it's not looking at every day of the school. It's looking at those days of significance that might coincide with days of significance within the different religions around. Trustee Rocha, did you want to add anything?
Yes, so to Trustee Daniele, when we looked at the different people who were consulted and who made part of that school year calendar committee, we did see that no spiritual leaders or religious leaders were consulted. So what we're hoping is that maybe the calendar committee can consider working or consulting with these religious organizations. One of them that comes to mind is the Interfaith Council of Halton, that covers many faiths, and maybe looking to them to see the placement of days, how it works, and perhaps an additional message going out to parents and staff and students about the significance of that particular holiday and the onus on them to choose between going to school that day or not. Now, we're not suggesting every single holiday a special recognition goes out, but it's only on those that really impact, not really impact because everything has an impact, but those that have more of a personal impact between school and holidays. One of the ones we mentioned was the first day of school, but there are other things we need to consider. For example, if a special holiday falls during graduation, or that's just one other example. So I guess what we're saying is, if we can also consult with religious or spiritual leaders and perhaps help us with the dates, or at least help us with messaging to everyone.
Thank you for that clarity.
Okay, Trustee Collard.
Thank you. I saw that Superintendent Etoff had his camera on, so I wondered if he actually wanted to speak, and if he does, then I would defer to him until after he has spoken.
Superintendent Etoff?
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to address the question with respect to the Interfaith Council of Halton. We have a long-standing relationship, and actually we have membership and sit on the Interfaith Council, which is led by Rabbi Wise, and as part of our ongoing relationship, we do a regular sharing of the work that's going on in the board and our commitment to equity and inclusion in a broader sense across all faiths and creeds. And usually with that group, as well as with our a local and internal equity and inclusive education advisory steering committee, part of our process of rolling out the draft calendar of dates is to do sharing with these various different partners that we have across the district. So just wanted to highlight that we certainly have a strong and existing relationship with the Interfaith Council of Halton.
Thank you. Trustee Collard?
Yes, thank you. So when I first saw this motion, it brought to mind the disconnect that I felt when our school calendar included the first day of school on a high holiday, and trustees did not meet on that day because it was a high holiday. And I felt that we were making two different decisions for the same holiday, and it felt a bit awkward for me. And I was hopeful that this motion would help us navigate that a little bit so that we don't come up with two different decisions regarding the same high holiday, I guess.
Okay, thank you. And just noting that the motion is a review of the existing policy and or governance procedure related to school year calendar to ensure that they align with the multi-year plan. I actually have not a suggestion, but I think that there is something, just a deadline to have this review completed, or else it may sit on our order paper for a very long time, and we just went through an order paper review. So I was just wondering if Trustee Roshan and Trustee Shuttleworth have a suggestion for that.
So through the chair, I think that's a great idea, especially for seeing as how I love having dates on motions. I don't know how I missed this one. So I think, I don't want to speak for Trustee Shuttleworth, but I think we would both agree that we do want to put a date on it. I would look to perhaps Director Ennis just to provide a possible date, because I'm assuming he's the one who's going to have to have staff review. Perhaps by the end of the year, by the end of December, so that when the calendar committee starts up in the new year, any revised policies and procedures could be put in place.
Through the chair, we would certainly be open to a timeline at the end of December.
Okay, so why don't we add an amendment that this be completed by the end of December 2021. Okay. Okay, and I see no other speakers on the speakers list. So all those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We will be reviewing our policies and governance procedures. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are next, we are up to, actually, not even quite 8 o'clock. We are up to communications to the board. Student trustees Vidyalankara and Bao, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, we do.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's so lovely to see you all again. As you may know, the start of the school year also marks the search for student senators. On Tuesday, Trustee Vidyalankara and I sent out an email to all grade 7 to 12 HCSB students to inform them about what Student Senate is and how to get involved. We also sent out an email to all elementary and secondary school principals on Student Senate nominations and shared our introductory video both through email and social media. Both Trustee Vidyalankara and I received lots of positive feedback and questions from students, parents, and staff. We hope to see returning and new senators from all HCSB schools, especially those who we haven't sent senators in the past. We cannot wait to see all the wonderful senators our principals put forward by October 15th, and we look forward to our very first Senate meeting starting on Tuesday, October 19th. To begin, our meetings will be held virtually through Google Meet, and we hope to offer a hybrid model later on.
So there were just a couple of things that we wanted to highlight. Firstly, grade 7 to 12 students and families have been told directly that we're looking for senators. To my knowledge, we haven't sent out a direct communication advertising the opportunity to join Student Senate in this capacity, but we felt that this would be really beneficial, especially because around this time of year, principals are incredibly busy, and it can be hard to put out announcements asking for senators. So we felt that by letting all kids know and all families know, we're kind of evening out the playing field and ensuring that anyone who's interested has the opportunity to put their name forward. It's only been a day since the school messenger email went out, and like Casey said, we've already had dozens of messages and emails from staff and students and families alike, so we hope that this is a practice that is continued in the future. On a separate but also Senate-related note, as you know, one of our biggest goals is to continue widening the access and reach of the Senate. So one way that we're doing this year is by inviting students at CILAPS to participate in the Senate in some capacity. Unfortunately, they're not able to participate directly on the Senate, so they won't be sending a student senator due to, I think, privacy concerns. But Associate Director Bogue is helping us facilitate their involvement in some capacity. So whether that be through sending updates to a staff member or seeking anonymous feedback from students. And on a final note, we have a lot of students asking us what it takes to be a senator and what specific skills or qualifications are needed. But I just wanted to say that we really don't have a formal checklist, so to speak. Each school has their own, I think, method and criteria for selecting student senators, and we respect that process that each school has. Ultimately, if you're passionate about student voice and you're willing to collaborate with our team, in our eyes, you're qualified to be a senator, so we welcome all. Looking forward to another wonderful year on the Student Senate, and thank you all for listening to our report. Happy to answer any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your video on the student senator role. It was quite good. Oh, I see some. Okay, Trustee Garretts, go right ahead.
Thank you. Through you to Trustee Villian Carla. Why do we not have a standard criteria to select senators across the board? Why is it left to the discretion of the principals or whatever? Why is it different for every school?
That's a really good question. So I have some understanding of this because I was on Senate. I started Senate in grade 8, and I understood that I almost view it as like us as trustees were like the federal government, and we can't exactly like meddle in what the provinces do, but we can give guidelines and suggestions for how they can conduct their affairs. That's like the analogy I have in my head. Associate Director Bogue might be better equipped to answer the question, but I do think, each school, I think, is sensitive to the needs of its students. So for example, I come from my high school is quite big, and it's a very competitive process to become a senator. So we have, an interview stage, and there's like reference letters, but, at another high school, there might just be like, you email the principal and they're lucky to get the students that they do get. So it is different among each school. I do think it's worthwhile though looking into maybe standardizing the process a little bit so it's not too different among schools. So that's really good feedback that we can use this year.
Thanks, Student Trustee Vigilankar. That was a great explanation, actually. My comments won't be that much different, except to say that each school has a little bit of a different context and philosophy. I think about how our schools determine who would be on their student council or their student leadership groups. Sometimes you've got those high flyers who are really keen, and that adds great value. And sometimes you want to provide an opportunity for a student that might otherwise not be the obvious choice. We also want to encourage diversity at Student Senate, both from all different aspects, so that we've got a really rich student voice there. They're a pretty high-flying group as it is, so it's from that perspective, in terms of the being great students, they're a fairly narrow group, I would say, but certainly to have kids from all backgrounds and experiences and identities would be an important piece as well. And so sometimes it just takes a tap by an administrator at their home school to say, hey, this would be a great opportunity for you and a great experience. So notwithstanding, I like the idea of maybe having some nuggets or some guiding principles. I think we've left it really wide open in the past, so we might be able to provide a little bit more direction for our schools, so that at least they're thinking about these pieces.
Trustee Reynolds.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm really glad our student trustees mentioned the new piece about sharing this awareness through families. I was really delighted to see that in my inbox, and I thought that was a really important part of raising the awareness, because as a parent, I would speak to parents at school council, and not a lot of them were aware of this role, particularly if the senator didn't sit at the school council meeting, because school senate is different. So I thought that was really cool. I hope it continues, and I think we're going to see an increase of requests to participate. So perhaps doing your terms of reference of what a student senator should be might be a good next step.
Okay. So we will now move on to the next item, which is for action on October the 6th. We're already heading into October. So I believe that should be 521, long-term accommodation plan, report 21111 from Executive Officer Gaudette. Go right ahead.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair Gerbentz and trustees. I would first, by way of introduction, like to thank the planning team for their efforts to revise and refresh and update this long-term accommodation plan that General Manager Thibault is going to present to you this evening. Thank you.
Through Chair Gerbentz, I'll just give a quick little summary on what's new in the project, or in the LTAP for the 2021 and 2022 or 2020-2021 school year. And again, I'll echo the statement that Ian says. The planning team did a great job in putting this together and doing some refreshes, as well as looking at it with different lenses to make it a little bit more of an accessible document and continuing on that path forward. So just a little bit of updates. Over the summer, we presented trustees with the initial draft of the report, and over the summer we received comments and integrated those comments and made some additional updates. We did the standard updates in terms of updating the enrollment projections within the document, as well as looking at and updating utilization and trends that are happening in our municipal neighborhoods. New to this year, which is both reflected in the board report as well as the LTAP. I'll start with the board report. We updated our utilization mapping format so that in the board report you can have a very close-up look as to what utilization is looking like by municipality for both the elementary and the secondary review areas. We also provided that information within the body of the LTAP in the municipal sections more as a forward. We've also introduced a summary tables in the board report as well as in the LTAP for immediate, medium, and long-term projects, as well as projects to be determined or feasibility projects. And those are a classification so we can look at more projects over the horizon of, both 1 to 2 years, which we look to do kind of in the immediate term, as well as more medium term in the 3 to 5 year range for the schools that we're anticipating. And then the long-term ones are the ones that we know that are coming down the road but still have yet enough details, as well as to be determined projects, which are guided by things that we know should be addressed over time, but we have yet to really define a date. So those could be boundary reviews or even new school projects that may require feasibility studies to see whether or not they are a good project to proceed with. Specific to the board report, we did remove quite a bit of the ERA and SRA summaries, and we put those into the LTAP for this year. So now the public may now access this in one complete document compendium. We also introduced in the LTAP an executive summary at the front end, so you can get all the information up front as to what was completed over the last school year, the projects that we're proposing throughout the entire report, as well as introducing a new section to the forward, which provides a little bit of information on the land acquisition process. So now, with regards to this, the next steps, what we plan to do is come to the committee of the whole meeting next Wednesday, present a synopsis of what we have as part of the long-term accommodation plan to the Board of Trustees and take some questions there. So if you have any ones either tonight or for that time, we'll be happy to take them. And over that period between then and the ultimate approval date on October 20th, we'll be making some final tweaks to the documents to accommodate for additional comments being made. Moreover, we're also going to be releasing this to the public through a newsletter later this week. And then we'll also provide the public a chance to comment on the LTAP and also see what the draft looks like at this point in time. And last but not least, at the October 20th meeting, we'll also present our tentative schedule of bound reviews that we look to undertake as part of this year, and that may also carry over into next year as part of our bound review report. Some of these are discussed in this report as well as the LTAP, but we'll move forward through that process starting on October 20th once the LTAP is approved, and for further approval on November 6th once it's had a chance to be reviewed by the Board of Trustees. With that, I'm happy to take any questions with regards to the contents and the direction of the LTAP as well as the board report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking to my speakers list to see if there are any questions for you. Though I assume people will probably get into, are looking forward to the discussions at the Committee of the Whole next week, because right now there are no questions. So we look forward to having you at the committee meeting next week. Oh, wait. Trustee Reynolds popped on the screen. Go ahead, Trustee Reynolds.
Hi, thank you so much through our chair. And I'm certainly looking forward to our conversations at Committee of the Whole, but I'm hoping you can just indulge me one moment because this, actually my comment is for the report itself rather than the LTAP document, if I may. And it was just regarding one of the elements, and I'm just looking for some clarity or clear language from my understanding, but also for the public who might just be reading that report today. Under future capital priority considerations, and I'm sorry, I don't have a page number. There is number 2 is identified as Central Public School Replacement School Project. And I note it is documented in 2 spaces under long-term review for a 5-year out project. But I'm just hoping for anybody who might be listening, or perhaps for future iterations of this report, if clarity could just be put on your note is, this is regarding Central Public School. And I'm wondering if I'm reading it correctly, that it's actually the project is would be a consolidation of 2 school buildings, Central Public School and Burlington Central High School, which also encompasses 3 schools, the elementary school, the public school, and the high school, to create a JK to 12 facility. So am I correct in that interpretation? Because I think people may not understand that's what is proposed. It's not a replacement of that particular school, but you're actually looking at a consolidation of all those 3 schools and a replacement of those 2 school buildings. Is this correct?
Through Chair Gerbens to Trustee Reynolds, that is correct, but I'd be a little careful around the word consolidation. Because it does have a pupil accommodation review connotation to it. So to your point, what we're looking at here is these are 2 facilities that have a significant amount of renewal dollars attached to them, and there's also some underutilized pupil places in both of them. So what we're looking as part of this feasibility study, first and foremost, is to see whether or not this project could be feasible in reviewing as an almost replacement build that we would, because they share the same site, they share a wall, albeit maybe not fully integrated within the building, could we review this as a potential to address a few of the issues that are part of the capital priority submission stream? One being the removal of a significant amount of renewal dollars, one about right-sizing school facilities to what the actual needs are, both current and long-term, and I guess those are the 2 right there. So we're just trying to see if this could be a viable project. So before we even go forward with any kind of further capital priorities submission, what we really want to be sure is that the numbers make sense, that the project makes sense, that we've consulted with our municipal partners as well as our regional partners to see, is there anyone else that want to partake in this, whether child care or another community use. So this is a new concept, and that we're looking at as in these feasibility studies, in that this might be a good idea, but we still have a lot of studies to be done. But we also don't want people to be blindsided down the road and say, oh, this is a new project we're doing. So at least now we're introducing it. We have discourse around it that this could be a project, and that we want to go through this process of determining whether it can be done, whether we have certain partners, so that when we go to the ministry as part of the capital priority submission, we have all this background information. We know the costing, we know the partners, we know the alignment of the capital dollars being put in, and also even looking at what we have to do in the interim to accommodate these students if we're doing something as large as this. So it's kind of a new strategy we're looking at to say, let's start planning this, see if it's doable, and if it is, then we move on to the next steps, which is this part of a capital priority submission in the future? I hope that clarifies it for yourself, Trustee Reynolds, as well as the community that's listening on this particular project, because I do understand this is a very active community for Central Public.
Follow-up, please.
Go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. You hit the nose on the head there. I'll get some calls on this, and so I wanted to be clear when I answer them. I have just one more question to this piece of the report, and I think it's an important piece. And it says that these two facilities have significant FCI, although it doesn't identify what FCI is. I think it's Facility Improvement Index. I forget. If you could just remind us. And I was wondering, in the LTAP, does it make sense to actually document that kind of value in school properties? Like, you know, how, because we know how many years they've been around, but I'm wondering, is that an appropriate piece to share through the LTAP so that people can understand, you know, where we have older buildings in communities and whatnot? Because I would want to know where the public could find that information.
Through Chair Gerbens to Trustee Reynolds and Executive Officer Gadet can add or redact maybe something I say, but I'd say the facility condition, or FCI, is a facility condition index, which is the value to address critical items as part of the school or the backlog of the school comparatively to the value of replacement for that school. So in this case, albeit it's not noted in the report, they're in if I recall from the top of my memory, they're in the 70%. So that means 70% of the value of the school is in in the deferred critical items that need to be replaced. Now, with regards to having this as part of the LTAP, this has been, especially with planning being integrated within the facility service department, and somewhat of a revisioning exercise that planning and facilities as well as business services has been exploring is perhaps maybe we can refocus some of the content of the LTAP and start shifting towards more of a consolidated vision of, here's the accommodation, here's, the accommodation in terms of enrollment, new schools and growth, and maybe we can start bringing in some of that other information to at least give a little bit of a picture as to what our communities are looking like on a number of fronts, both in terms of student accommodation and, facility condition also could be something that's very valuable to note. So that's part of the refresh initiative that planning services is working towards to see, what can be removed from the LTAP and what can be added to make it a document that's maybe more attuned to what a community member is looking for when they're reviewing the document, like what's happening in our community. So it's part of it right now, and we're still visioning at this point in planning services. But we will like to come back to trustees eventually with, as well as senior staff, on what we're seeing and what's of value and what we can do. But I hope that addresses your questions, Trustee Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your commitment for continual improvement. This document, the LTAP, it gets every year, it has new pieces, and it becomes more valuable as a information and I guess for your group, a planning tool. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So I'm just going to tag on to what Trustee Reynolds made as her final comment just about the LTAP changing every year and becoming a more and more useful tool, not only for internal planning purposes, but for the community I would just note that on the order paper, there is an older motion, M190130, that came from Burlington trustees back in 2019, and it was related to taking a look at any legacy boundary issues that we may have out there that were either created over time or by, gentrification of certain communities or by other decisions that the board had made. So it seems to me that this year you have included a fulsome list of boundary reviews, and I was just wondering whether that list in fact also fulfills the purpose of this motion, and maybe it's a question also to colleagues who made the motion in the first place, just to take a look at that list that's in the LTAP and make sure that it fulfills what your original intent was, if that makes sense, just to make sure that they're all in there and we can discuss that at the committee of the whole.
Maybe just quickly through you, Chair Benz. Yes, and I failed to mention that as per Director Ennis's comment that we'll be dealing with as part of this report. So yes, as part of this, while we were doing the long-term and some of these TBD areas, we were also looking at some maybe cleanup boundaries that were recommended by planning staff as ones that we've come across that may benefit from a revision. So there's smaller scoped boundary reviews that may benefit. So there's a couple of them that might be showing up this year as some, I'll call it cleanup for now. But absolutely, if there's any other ones that pop up or have not popped up in this list, please let us know, and we can certainly have an eye to it and adding them into the under review section.
Okay, thank you. And there are no more questions at this time. So thank you very much for your report, and we look forward to speaking with you next week. We are up to information items for this, information items for this evening, which there are none. Notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Looking to the speakers list. Seeing none. So we are up to the director's report. Director Ennis, go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair Gerbrands. Good evening, trustees and everyone else. I am thrilled to report in my third week on the job since school started for students and families. I've had the opportunity to visit a few schools, both scheduled and unscheduled, and the reception has been tremendous, warm, and welcoming. In this short period of time, I've seen firsthand many of the commitments in the multi-year strategic plan in action as I've visited these schools. Students are happy. They're happy to be back in schools. They're learning in person and they're interacting with their peers. Although, as one student told me, it's the waking up to get to school that's the problem. We must do everything we can to continue to encourage and promote adherence to safety protocols and practices for all of our students and staff so that all our schools can remain open for the remainder of this school year. I can assure you, based on my conversations and observations, that teachers are mindful of the little ones, and indeed all the students wearing masks for long periods, and they are given frequent breaks. Some schools are encouraging as much outdoor learning as possible while the weather is still good. I've also had the opportunity to visit a couple of virtual classes, and the teachers and students are doing a wonderful job in this mode of learning. I've met all the school administrators, albeit virtually, and continue to meet a few each week in person. I want to publicly thank them for the incredible work that they are doing to keep our schools safe, keep our students learning, and supporting their mental health and well-being. As someone new to the board, I can proudly declare that the Halton District School Board is a special board. A few things continue to resonate for me as in my first few weeks. That is the number of staff who have told me how much they appreciate the Halton District School Board, what it stands for, and how they feel coming to work each and every day. This is a wonderful culture and wonderful workplaces that we have created. It should not be taken for granted, and we must find ways through a pandemic to maintain it, and to build on it. Our challenge, of course, is to ensure that everyone within the Halton District School Board, particularly those who have been marginalized and underserved, feels this way as well. That they feel accepted and that they're being the best versions of themselves in an environment that truly acknowledges and accepts them, that is equitable and that is inclusive. Associate Director Bogue and the entire senior team have been incredibly supportive to all our schools and the families as we begin this new year. As with any new school year, there are always challenges, but I want to publicly thank them. Professional learning and knowledge building continue to lead our time together as a senior staff each Monday. We have engaged in learning around equity and inclusion, and will engage in building our knowledge in Indigenous perspectives and awareness in the weeks ahead. Our commitment to the multi-year plan, our 5 key commitments, and the way forward continue to guide us each step of the way. I am happy to report that we're off to a great start in this school year. And now I'd like to ask Superintendent of Business, Roxana Nagoy, to speak to transportation issues and some of the challenges we might have there.
Thank you, Director Ennis. And through the chair to all trustees, I wanted to provide an update on the transportation and the current driver shortage. As we are navigating the first couple of weeks of school, we have seen some increasing driver shortages. About 8% of our drivers or permanent drivers and routes don't have an actual assigned permanent driver. We do have about 5% of the routes that are currently delayed. Most of them are 10 to 15 minutes. However, we do have some routes that have been delayed for up to an hour. So certainly we are working very diligently with the bus operators to cover these runs. They are being covered by the permanent drivers that have already assigned runs, and they're doing and picking up an extra one, as well as the spare drivers who are picking up both absentees and runs, as well as additional open runs. There's a number of strategies that we are employing to make sure that the delays don't impact the same areas and the same schools for too long. However, we wanted to let trustees know that there's quite a bit of a driver shortage that we're experiencing right now. And we are working with the bus operators for continuous recruitment of bus drivers. If you know anyone who's interested, they do have over 400 wonderful bus drivers that are driving our students to school. And we have a number of them in training. Training does take about 5 to 6 weeks. Therefore, the driver shortage does take a little time to be overcome, and we'll keep you updated in the weeks to come.
Thank you, Superintendent Nagoy. At this time, I'm going to ask Superintendent of Human Resources, Sari Taha, to give us an update on vaccination compliance.
Good evening. Thank you, Director Ennis. Through you, Chair Grabens, to the rest of the trustees. In the next few minutes, I'll provide you with an update with respect to the status of the vaccination disclosure procedure that has been mandated by the Ministry and the Chief Medical Officer of Public Health, and our progress to date. I'd like to begin by sharing with you some of the numbers that we have as of 2 p.m. this afternoon, so this is as up to date as one could possibly be. So as of today, 2 p.m., this policy, or this procedure, I should say, applies to 9,983 employees. So again, 9,983 employees. To date, we have 9,010 responses. Again, 9,010 responses from the 9,983 potential responses. We have 88,434 responses as fully vaccinated. So that's 93.6% of responses.
I think you meant 8,800.
What did I say?
88,000.
That's a lot of. That's a very large school board. I meant 8,434 responses that indicated they are fully vaccinated. So that's 93%, 93.6%. 22 responses were medically exempt responses, and we have 554 responses that were unvaccinated, and that is 6.1% of the responses to date. So that leaves us with 973 incompletes or attestations that yet to be completed. So again, we're under 1,000 with unknown status out of roughly 10,000 employees. September 22nd, which is today, was the day that we had to report our numbers or publish our numbers on our board website. The numbers that are on the board website are numbers that were reported to the ministry on September 7th. So they're September 17th. So they're slightly different than the numbers I shared with you this evening. And on September 24th, which is this Friday, we have another update to the ministry that is required. So we're heading in the right direction. Our attestation completions are going up. Our unvaccinated numbers are actually going down from the last update. Last update was 563 unvaccinated employees. Now we're down to 554, and the incompletes are also going down. So that's all good news. In terms of the compliance and next steps, specifically with respect to the rapid testing kits, last week the a very small but mighty team from Human Resources and Purchasing and Facilities managed to box over 2,000 rapid testing kits in 2 days, and they were on the truck to be delivered by a company called Exclusive Services as of Friday afternoon. So as of Friday, September 17th, these kits began to be delivered. As of today, we are about halfway completed, with roughly another half of these kits to be delivered by the end of the week. We've delivered to all sorts of areas, from Guelph to Acton to Georgetown to Glen Williams to Stony Creek to Grimsby, Waterdown, and we're finishing up with Oakville and Burlington and Brampton. Half of these deliveries are in those cities, given where our employees reside. As of next week, we will have an interim solution with respect to the collection of testing dates and testing results. So there are two cohorts of stakeholders or individuals that we are managing the collection of this data and the reporting of this data. Obviously, our employees is the largest group, and the other cohort are other individuals or volunteers or third-party providers. Both populations will be using two different systems for the purpose of the collection and reporting of data. Our employees will be using the same system that they've used to report their attestation, and that's the employee self-service portal. We believe that's the way to go, have everything under one roof for a host of reasons, in particular to ensure compliance and a few other reporting requirements. For third-party providers and volunteers, they will be using a system that the government had suggested we consider. It's a system called Thrive by a company called Creative Destructive Labs. Literally, as of 30 minutes ago, we were granted administrative access to this system, I'm told, and we will be able to set it up for the third-party providers to use. But until that happens, we have an interim solution to collect this data and also report on it. But we believe by the end of next week or the first week of October, we'll have both systems up and running. We will continue this week, and until there's no reminders left to be sent, to remind employees to complete the attestation or to be in compliance, whether with the education requirement, the training course, or with the reporting of the rapid test results. This is all the update I can give you at this time. One thing I would like to say is that this has been a significant undertaking undertaking by the school board in the province. A lot of resources have been dedicated and diverted to managing this process, not only at a financial cost, but at a human resources cost. And I want to salute the efforts of all of those people that have made this happen thus far, human resources, business services, facilities, senior admin, and obviously Board of Trustees with their trust in the team to get this done. And happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. There are a couple. We'll start with Trustee Shuttleworth.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Superintendent Taha. So my question is about those who have not completed the forms. So if they haven't completed the forms and so they're being non-compliant in that, how do we assure that they take the self-tests?
Thank you, Trustee Shuttleworth. Through you, Chair Grabans, to Trustee Shuttleworth and the rest of the trustees. The individuals who have yet to disclose their vaccination status will be considered unvaccinated for the purpose of this procedure, and therefore they will be required to be in compliance with the requirements that unvaccinated individuals who have disclosed that status, namely to participate in rapid testing twice a week, as set up by the Ministry of Education guidelines, and to provide proof of these results, not unlike how the unvaccinated individuals would have to do so. So again, they would be reminded through our automated notification reminder system or Thrive, depending on which cohort of which population they belong to, that there are 2 requirements that they need to meet, and failing to do so would trigger further action on part of human resources in terms of ensuring compliance. So the kits that I spoke to earlier, roughly 1,500, 1,800 kids, also took into account those who have yet to complete the attestation. We have, however, in our correspondence with these individuals, did say that if you receive this kit in error, or if you have since completed your attestation or you are fully vaccinated, that you return the kit to the school board at JWS.
Do you have a follow-up?
A little bit, yeah. So I look at the manpower that you speak of in having to get those tests out. So I just worry if people are choosing to not comply with attestations. How immediate do we know that they're not taking their tests? Like, so if they're going into schools, do we know that day?
So through you, Chair Grabans, to Trustee Shuttleworth and the rest of the trustees, the testing approach or methodology is that you are tested twice a week. The duration between the test 1 and test 2 is roughly 72 hours. So you could take a test on a Monday and a Thursday, and a test on a Sunday and a Wednesday. And the idea here is that you are not to undertake a test more than 48 hours before entering the workplace. So our tracking or our monitoring will be on a weekly basis, that we need to see 2 entries, and I'm oversimplifying this, but we need to see 2 entries within the business rules or the parameters I've just specified, and failing to do so would result in a follow-up. It would not necessarily immediately result in removing you from the workplace. There are all sorts of reasonable grounds, let's say, that an individual may not have completed the test. They could be sick, they could be away, they could have forgotten to enter their test result and test date. So there are all sorts of, speaking of resources, all sorts of conversations that need to be had, and then the actions that we take have to be seen as fair, reasonable, and appropriate in the circumstances. But to answer your question, would it result in immediate removal from the workplace? I would say no. At least not initially.
Okay, and I have a couple of questions. First, as a kind of follow-up, if it is if the employee is not completing them on a serial basis, more than oops, I forgot. what happens in that case?
Through you, Chair Gerbens, to you and the rest of the board, we will certainly adopt the same framework with respect to progressive response. I shy away from the word discipline, but our response will be progressive. That if we see a pattern of carelessness or negligence, let's say, and after reminders and reminders that not only have you forgotten to report your test once, but there's a pattern of behavior. There's a track record here that shows that you're failing to frequently and regularly and in compliance with the guidelines to do so, that will result in a progressive response, be it a reminder, and also an explicit disclaimer that this may result in removing you from the workplace. But we will definitely adopt a progressive response approach.
I'm glad to hear that you're having, if the tests are no longer needed to be taken by the individual, that they are being returned, because I could see a black market for tests. They're not inexpensive to get. The other, just slightly different, is this courier service. Who's paying for that? Is that part of the ministry or part of the federal funding for the courier to get these tests to, these 1,500, 1,800 tests to various people? Because, what budget is that coming out of?
Through you, Chair Gerbens, to you and the rest of the trustees, I'll start it off and turn it over to Superintendent Nagoy for further commentary on the specifics of the funding. By way of context, you're required to participate in 2 tests a week. Each kit contains 25 tests. So that supply of, so each kit should last you 12 and a half weeks. And so this is the first shipment that we've sent. Roughly 1,500 kits have been delivered. I would say the average cost per kit plus shipping and handling is well over $70. So you can do the math. So the cost is not insignificant, and it's an ongoing cost insofar that our unvaccinated rates continue to be where they are. Furthermore, not only is there a cost with respect to the rapid testing kits, there is cost to the board as of February 1st in terms of managing the Thrive platform, which is the platform that we're using to report and collect data for individuals who are not employees of the board. So there's that cost. And that could be upwards of $10,000 to $15,000 annually. There's also the cost of the enhancements to our existing HRIS system. So there are several costs associated with this process, not only with the rapid testing kits. My understanding, and Superintendent Nagoy can chime in, is at this point there's some COVID funding earmarked for COVID in general that we are resorting to, but I'll turn it over to Roxana for further comments.
Thank you. And through the chair to all trustees, we do have a funding allocated, but it is board funding at this point. To Superintendent Taha's earlier comment, the kits themselves, the cost of the kits are provincially covered and delivered to school boards. So we don't actually pay for the cost of the kit as a school board. We have cost of delivery that was $20 to $24 per kit for delivery, depending on the region it had to be shipped to. So not an insignificant cost. In addition, there are alterations to the system and a lot of additional work for reconciliation of attestations and so forth. That in particular, we have put aside so far about $250,000 in our budget from the board reserves to cover for the vaccination kit delivery system, as well as the PPE delivery overall. So we have a one line in our budget. We are going to raise this with the ministry. It is on their radar as well, and we're going to raise it as an item at the COSBO table later this week as well, to make them aware of the many different costs involved, in addition to the work, the administration that this initiative has entailed, where sometimes we do require some additional staffing to help as well.
Thank you. So just to be clear, the kits themselves, they were federally funded, I believe, and then we're covering costs through board reserves.
I would have to confirm that the kits are coming from the provincial government through the same way as the PPE. However, whether they originated federally, it's something that I would have to take back and confirm.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's another question, and that's Trustee Shuttleworth again.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Superintendent Ngoy, I'm just wondering, are we looking at any way to recoup this funding?
Thank you. And through the Chair to Trustee Shuttleworth, yes, we are keeping track of the costs, and we are going to request additional funding from the ministry. There are some funds to be allocated in the second half of the year that we have not received confirmation yet. There is a possibility that some of that funding will be flexible enough to allocate to these costs as well. So that would be my hope, if not additional funding to be provided to school boards. So we are speaking, as I mentioned, with the ministry actually later this week. And we're hoping they have more information for us. We're hoping that they can confirm whether or not there will be additional funding. And once we have that information, we'll bring it back to the board.
Is that the only route you're looking at as far as recovering the money?
Well, the funding has to come from the ministry. So we are asking for it as provincially as a collective of boards. They have been receptive to our identified challenges for COVID. So I'm hopeful that this is one of those areas that they will be receptive as well. I am aware that the Trustee Association has flagged this, as well as the Council of Directors. So Code has been also in discussions with the ministry and the Deputy Minister with regards to this pressure for school boards.
Okay, thank you, Director Ennis. There are no more questions on this topic.
Thank you, Chair Gerbens. Through you, I just want to ask Superintendent Ngoy to speak to Explorica at this time.
Thank you. And we do have some great news for our families. I have been informed by Explorica that throughout the summer, our families have been receiving communication, whether it was from Explorica or from the insurers, with regards to refunds for trips that had been tied in litigation. So as soon as the litigation was concluded, they have reached out to our families. And we are in the process of notifying the last of our families who have not had insurance. So they were the families that are still waiting to hear from Explorica and from us. And I have been informed that the Explorica is adjusting their accounts and will be issuing checks over the next couple of weeks to those families as well. So that should be concluding the refunds to all of our families for the trips that have been impacted by this pandemic. Thank you.
Looking to the speakers list to see if there are any questions. Seeing none.
Thank you. Through the chair, our final item this evening is an update from our superintendent, Jackie Newton, on some very exciting news, learning that took place this summer.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, through the chair. I'm excited to report the work of school programs and continuing ed, and through the elementary panel under Superintendent Slamini, and through the system principal of Gary Allen Learning Centers, Andrea Taylor. We had 7,000 students from grades 4 to grade 12 participate in summer school or continuing ed this summer. And the focus in elementary particularly was on literacy and numeracy, and really mental health and engaging students and feeling a sense of belonging. The highlight that I want to share with you this evening is for the first time we offered 2 courses that we were granted permission from the ministry. The first one was a senior level Indigenous Studies program where over 20 students participated in to earn a credit at the grade 12 level. And a very excited pilot, one of the few school boards in Ontario who found an OCT teacher. His name is Chris Carson Jones. He's fantastic. He teaches music out of Milton District High School. He offered to teach the American Sign Language because he is certified in that, and over 28 students registered in that. They found it positive out of COVID in online learning because every student could see his hands. It was virtual, and they could see his hands up front and personal. They also found that the testimonials that students gave were that it made them have a deeper appreciation for another language. It's seen as a language, and that it's inclusive, and they understand the hard of hearing community in a more compassionate and empathetic way. And we also, in terms of the land acknowledgement, the communications department is going to take Chris and his students' work that was done in American Sign Language and post it on our website with our Halton branding. So thank you for sharing, for letting me share that news on behalf of those folks today.
That's wonderful news. We don't have any questions, so go right ahead.
That concludes the director's report for this evening, Chair Gerbens.
Thank you. Next, we're up to communication from the chair, and you, everybody can see in the board package that we do have I believe it's a second response from the Premier's office on truth and reconciliation, and our letter about adding COVID-19 vaccine to the ISPA list, and also a letter from Waterloo Region District School Board regarding enhanced masks. For our packages, we do not add letters as per request from the community. If people want to get a hold of trustees, they are welcome to email trustees, or they're welcome to delegate. Just as groups feel that they would like their letter added to our package, it's just not what we do. You can imagine that could be taken advantage of. And so we did receive a letter from a group, Educators for Human Rights, and we will not be publishing the letter on those grounds, as well as the fact that it sounds very much like a delegation. And as per our delegation bylaws, groups that represent employees are not allowed to delegate through our system, through our board meetings. They are to go through human resources for any issues that have to do with employment. So just letting you know, anybody that wants to talk to trustees, as I said, welcome to email, welcome to call. Our information is on the hdsb.ca website. They're all our cell phone numbers, direct lines. And also there is an email address that can get to all of us at once, which is trustees@hdsb.ca. If you would like to delegate, please just go to the hdsb.ca website and look up our delegation policy and governance procedure. And if the delegation is pertinent to what we're dealing with, we would be able to assess it to see if it's an appropriate time to have that come forward. So just wanted to put that out there. On to committee reports. Are there any committee reports? I believe there is a report coming. I can feel it through the internet. Yeah, Vice Chair Harrison, go right away. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, recently SEAC, Special Education Advisory Committee, did have our first meeting back following the summer break, and it was a great meeting. It's good to hear that we have an additional member joining us for the next meeting, and we approved that tonight in an earlier report.
Thank you very much. Are there any other committee reports? Seeing none, so on to trustee questions and comments. I think there is some percolating. It just, oh, see a hand up. There we go. Here, they're all coming in. So Trustee Garrett's, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. And this is actually sort of piggybacking on what you just were talking about in terms of contacting trustees. I took a quick look at the 8 schools in my wards, and only 50% of them were easy to find out who the trustee was with the school. Just random checking. And the others that, and I did some quick checking in Halton Hills just for fun tonight too, and I could only find a couple that were easy to find. It does, most of the school websites have the school info, and when you see that, our name will show up, and if you click on that link, it takes us to the website, the Halton District School website, but it really is not easy to navigate for parents to find our names and our numbers quickly if they were looking for it. So I'm just wondering if perhaps we could maybe fine tune that a little bit at some point, just so that it makes it easier for our families to reach out to us when they need to. Some of the school websites, it states right on there, you know, actually with staff list, Trustee Heather Garrett's, you know, Irma Colson or whatever, but just picking that one as random. But and I just don't see consistency there. So I'm wondering if that's something we could maybe look at.
I can jump in on that one. Thanks for the question, Trustee Garretts, and through the chair to you. There are aspects of websites that are customized by schools and some that aren't, that we push it centrally. So I can take that back and we can have a look. I haven't looked specifically at that, but I hear what you're saying, and so we'll do some investigating and follow up if you can give us a bit of time.
Absolutely, no rush on that. Just something I noticed.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. First, I just want to give my apologies to Superintendent Ruddock and staff regarding the SEAC report. It was a lot of setting ourselves up for the year to come, but I also just want to acknowledge that there was a very detailed presentation about the structured reading program that's been implemented, and there was lots of statistics shared and so on that really pointed to the success and how it catapulted students forward in their reading. So when we get that presentation, we will share it with all trustees because I think it'll be something of great interest. So my apologies on that. I was thinking ahead to what my comment or question was under this item, which with your okay, I'll just move ahead into okay, super, thanks. So this week I came across a motion from another Ontario school board related to a policy review that they were undertaking. And in that motion, they indicated that they were going to be consulting with the First Nation. And that made me stop and think that, you know, it's something that we've done here before, and I'm imagining many boards are with a good intent, wanting to consult with First Nations so that we are moving forward with truth and reconciliation. But it sort of struck me that I wonder how many boards are making how many requests for this input. And while that intent is good, what is the impact of all of these requests? And I wonder whether we can seek to understand what matters, what topics First Nations wish to be consulted on, and how to do so in the most effective way. There may be information about Indigenous peoples and specific First Nations and Métis communities that the board should be considering in all of our decision making. So that global piece, perhaps we can gain this high-level guidance proactively through, we have Indigenous staff advisors who provide wisdom all the time. We have the Human Rights and Equity Advisory Committee, and also a great relationship with Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation so that we can realize the commitments in the multi-year plan, play that active role in truth and reconciliation, and support every student, staff, and community. So my question is, I guess, how can we match our intent with a positive impact? I don't want to overburden already stretched resources in communities, yet I want to have that impact that I think I'm dreaming of forwarding, advancing. So that is a question. How can we do that? Firstly, is it of value? And secondly, how can we do that?
Perhaps we can think on that a little bit rather than coming up with something on the spot. I don't know if you would like to form a small sort of committee to kind of come up with some ideas or to engage staff to help hopefully provide some direction. You can follow up.
Okay, sure, absolutely. Yes, coming up with something on spur of the moment, I don't believe would serve that interest in a good way. And look we have the Human Resources Equity Advisory Committee that is newly struck, and perhaps this fits within the purpose of that group, and certainly Superintendent Etoff and the staff in that particular group may likely have some good guidance for us on this. So if it's possible, Director Ennis, to just make that request in the next short while that we get some feedback on how to do that.
Through the chair, we'd be happy to provide some guidance around that.
Thank you.
Okay, and Trustee Shuttleworth? Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. Following on from Trustee L. Harrison's question, somewhat. On the news a while ago, they were reviewing the calls to action of the Truth and Reconciliation, in particular, call number 62, which is to make age-appropriate curriculum on residential schools, treaties, and Aboriginal peoples' historical and contemporary contributions to Canada, a mandatory education requirement for kindergarten to grade 12 students. I'm just wondering where we, as the Halton District School Board, stand in fulfilling this call, and how are we moving forward? I think this will be for Superintendent Etoff.
Yes, thank you for the question. Through the chair, we are certainly very committed to this work. Our commitment to providing these exact types of learning opportunities for our students and staff is articulated, of course, through our multi-year plan and certainly in the way forward as well. The Ministry of Education has introduced new curriculum in recent years, as well as enhancements and integration opportunities. And if but if we're looking at really affecting change, then we need to look at how we do this and how we weave those understandings through everything versus teaching a particular lesson on a particular day. So in terms of furthering that work, there's we've been engaging, thanks to the resources provided by the board through our knowledge guide and our Indigenous lead, as well as we have two brand new resources at our disposal this year, itinerant resource teachers that are helping to further this work. So just to highlight a couple of examples, we had, I think, over 300 virtual classroom visits last year with our Indigenous Knowledge Guide, as well as with other elders and Indigenous community members, providing authentic perspective and understanding, and really able to augment that educational experience in our schools that's directly tied and connected to the curriculum. We have established a strong relationship with our treaty partner, and specifically the educational consultant Nancy Rowe from the Credit First Nation to help us develop and work on policies and practices and curriculum delivery, because we know it's not just about providing professional learning opportunities for our staff to create awareness of the curriculum, but also it needs to be delivered, obviously, in a good way. This past year, we, speaking of professional development and properly preparing staff, and not just staff in the classrooms, but our social work staff, our new teachers, our educational assistants, there's been just a variety of different learning opportunities created across the system. One particular initiative of note when you're speaking about that mandatory piece, beyond obviously the curriculum expectations and the new curriculum enhancements that are continuing to be rolled out, would be within the way forward. We've identified a goal of every single grade 11 student in our board taking the NBE, Contemporary First Nation Métis Inuit Voices course, which is actually an English course. And some of our schools right now, Milton, Acton would be some examples. This is the course of study. This is the mandatory course of study. This is the grade 11 English course. And what's very unique about it is that the only resources that are being used within that course are those written by Indigenous authors. So, and feedback from students, including one of our student trustees who gave us feedback not this past summer, but the summer before, is that it's these types of of learning opportunities that are absolutely critical for our students, and they really engage with these resources, and so that is something that's we have a planning group and obviously in collaboration partnership with our school programs department that started this planning process for the rollout of this course. It is a course that is offered in our secondary schools across the district. The issue being that often we don't get the voluntary enrollment that we might like, and students defer to the standard English course. So looking forward into the future, we're looking at rolling this out across every single one of our secondary schools. So I think that would be probably our best example in terms of mandatory learning that is directly related to our commitments with respect to creating better understanding of treaties and our relationships with Aboriginal peoples, both in a historical as well as in a contemporary sense.
Through the chair, if I could just add, in addition to what Superintendent Etoff just said, that the Board Improvement and Equity Plan, which has been rolled out this fall, the new template and guidance for that will also ask for, a K-12 Indigenous perspective to be a part of that Board Improvement and Equity Plan moving forward. And so by the end of this school year, we will have to make clear, to the ministry what our plan is moving forward. So in addition to what Rob said, I wanted to add that.
Thank you. That's really great to hear. It was also quite nice to hear from Superintendent Newton of the uptake of the Indigenous Studies course over the summer school. So thank you for everyone.
Okay, Trustee Oliver.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I'd like to raise a concern a student brought forward regarding their ability to hear their teachers in the classroom and sharing concerns for all other students. So we know that masks are a reality for all of our students and staff. Students kindergarten through grade 12 are wearing them. And while teachers are generally great speakers and know how to protect their voice, I think it's safe to assume that a mask and or a visor worn during the day will get in the way of their voice projection, and so the student's ability to hear. I'm sure we can all recall times when we had a difficulty hearing each other while wearing masks, and often even at a short distance. So many students may not make this known to their teacher. Many may resign themselves to not being able to hear, and this, of course, will get in their way of learning, engagement, and achievement. And so this brings me to the question of whether we could look at a feasibility of securing hands-free microphones for staff, be it all staff or those who ask for them, or those where students have identified issues hearing. And I'm not suggesting anything extravagant, no major audio setup, but something simple that would amplify the teacher's voice in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Trustee Oliver, through the chair to all trustees. That is something that we can highlight with our schools. Certainly, some teachers who have the big booming voice, it's maybe not as much of an issue, but for others it could be. We know that some of our teachers have wear and tear on their voice as well, and sometimes experience some stress-related injuries from trying to speak and project loudly. We do have some sound field systems, a number of them in our schools right now, and so maybe we can highlight the issue for our administrators to highlight with their staff. If there is a need, we do find ways to provide sound field systems and or smaller systems as well that can be used in those circumstances.
Okay, there are no more trustee questions and comments. So we are now on to public questions. So to ask a question, there's a button on the live stream page at the hdsb.ca website, or you can use the link at the bottom of tonight's agenda. Questions posted during live streamed meetings of the Board of Trustees Board of Trustees may be answered during the meeting, particularly those related to agenda items, or at the following meeting at the discretion of the chair. For efficiency, multiple questions received that are similar in nature may be grouped together at the discretion of the chair and or vice chair. Questions will not be attributed. When necessary, a notation will be made that multiple people ask the same question. Any questions that contain language that is hateful or discriminatory will not be considered. Vice Chair Harrison, have we any questions around policy, as this is the mandate of this board this evening?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did receive 2 questions from the public, and the first one was related to the report put forward by Trustees Shuttleworth and Rocha around the school year calendar. And so they are policy related somewhat. However, given that the review is going to take place, I would think that they would be more fulsome, answered in a more fulsome way in congruity with that review process. So I'm just going to suggest that those questions are forwarded to Associate Director Bogue so they can be considered and spur some thinking during that review process. And just not to be cryptic about the whole thing, the questions were about, who is represented on the calendar committee and how are communities that may be affected by certain decisions being consulted, among other questions. So Associate Director Bogue, does that sit well? And Director Ennis, is that fine?
Through you, Chair, that is absolutely fine. I believe that is certainly in alignment with the motion that was passed earlier.
Okay, thank you. And there is a second question that came in as well. And my interpretation is that it does fall within the trustees' purview. And it's a question about the letter that was attached to the agenda that we sent to the Minister of Education and the Minister of Health requesting a vaccine for COVID-19 be added to the list of vaccines. So the question is, why did we do that? And so I would look to first Chair Grabentz and then any colleagues who wanted to contribute.
Okay, as I put the motion forward.
Yes.
It's the reason we did it, the reason that I suggested the motion and it was adopted was the fact that as it stands right now, there is for parents and guardians, your children get vaccinated and there is no opportunity for further education. When the COVID-19 disease is added as a designated disease to the Immunization of School Pupils Act, then what happens is that the child is either vaccinated or there is an opportunity for education. That part is missing right now. That exemption is not available right now. So it leaves people on a fence. It allows people to do nothing. By adding it to the ISPA, people have to do something. They have to vaccinate their children or they have to participate in an education program. It is not mandatory vaccination in the sense that everybody must be vaccinated. There is an exemption process, and we should, I feel that we should be taking advantage of that part of the act. I don't know if any of my colleagues want to chime in or no. Oh, Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. I would just add that I certainly recognize that this is a potentially divisive topic. The letter itself that's attached to the agenda package does outline specific reasons, which are meant at the heart of it to ensure that students and staff are safe and that schools can remain open as long as possible to those who have chosen in-person learning. So in addition to what Chair Grabentz would say, I would just also add that we are watching very carefully, and the board receives ongoing advice from Canadian medical practitioners, including local and provincial medical officers of health. There's an awful lot of media out there right now with awful lot of information, and we are heavily influenced by information from our neighbors to the south. And just to underscore that we are in constant contact with the local medical officer of health and really trying to support schools, students, staff in those who have chosen in-person learning to stay in-person learning as long as possible. That's why I supported the motion. I think it's really interesting. It's our first question like this that's asking us to explain why we made a particular motion, and I just want to say thanks to the person that sent in that question. We did just have a third one arrive, and it doesn't fit the criteria that you outlined earlier, so we'll just respond directly back to that person. Thank you, Madam Chair. There are no other questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So just a reminder that there are several ways to be heard by the Board of Trustees. As I mentioned earlier, you can, and these are questions regarding governance and policies of the Halton District School Board. Of course, there's this question and answer period. There's delegating the board and reaching out directly to your local trustee. And again, trustee contact details are available on the hdsb.ca website. If you go to board and choose trustees, it lists us all there with our contact information. That being said, 6.0, we have exhausted our agenda, and I declare this meeting back into private. Oh, sorry. We actually have to go back into private session. So I need a motion. Vice Chair Harrison, would you like to make a motion to go into private session?
Sure, yes, thank you.
Trustee Garretts, would you like to second?
Yes, I will, thanks.
Is there any discussion at all looking at the speakers list? Seeing none, so all those in favor of returning to private session. Trustee Collard, what say you? Rising into private? I think she's having technical difficulties. So this carries, and we will confirm with Trustee Collard what her vote is, but it does carry. So we are now in private session. Vice Chair Harrison, the floor is yours.
So people, maybe just take a quick stretch break. We just have to give Kevin a couple minutes to shut down. This is